course, originally it was rushes, wasn't it? That
Yeah. The original setup. I put that file up right down.
you can't see it because in the heather.
Yeah. I mean, originally it was functional. It was rushes for the church floor, for the earth floor in the churches.
Yeah.
For the winter. In places like this without cereal crops, there wasn't straw, so they used rushes in Pennines. And that became purely ceremonial. In fact, the rushes disappeared, and if you look at the old rush carts after they were, later on,
Yeah.
you can't see any rushes because they built a huge great pile of rushes, then they've got the whole thing covered in white canvas and cotton sheets, and then that's all decorated with embroidery work and brass work and all sorts of things.
So the rushes were basically structural at one point.
Well, the rushes ended up just being, they carried on carrying the rushes. They weren't going to the church.
Yeah.
And they ended up to make the thing pretty. They ended up more or less covering the rushes completely. And in Whitworth, they just took that to its logical conclusion, I think, and said, well, we're going to have it pretty, let's have it pretty. We'll do it with heather instead. And the rushes bit was lost. We do have rushes on the cart. I make 2 rush boats to go on the front of the cart.
Yeah. When did the changeover from rushes to heather generally take place?
Well, it only happened. Whitworth's the only place that does it.
Whitworth.
Yeah. Everywhere else there's no other record of anywhere else changing like that.
Yeah.
And all the other revivals
Yeah.
have gone back to building a complete rush cart and using the rushes again.
How do the other rush cart people like in Sowerbury Bridge, how do they feel about you using the heather?
Well, that's up to us.
Yeah.
It's our ceremony.
Aye.
We didn't. I mean, that was started the 1910 cart, which was
Yeah.
the last one. We've got photographs of that, and that was certainly done with heather.
That was in Whitworth.
That was in Whitworth, yeah.
Yeah.
That was done with heather.
Yeah.
And that's what's been continued, that's what we've maintained.
Yeah.
And done it the same. And it's a rational sort of logical progression in the whole thing's organic, obviously.
Yeah.
And that the rushes had become left as symbolic.
Yes.
And the thing had become decorative. And the whole point was to make it as decorative as possible.
So
and
was
in
it?
Whitworth they said, well, let's use heather because it's more decorative.
Yeah.
Rather than building it all with rushes and then covering the rushes up and decorating all the cotton and sailcloth and stuff and making it, let's go the whole hog. There's photographs of some of the old rush carts coming down into Rochdale, and the rushes are covered completely. They're in like great mitres, like big bishop's mitres, covering the whole thing, like big pope's hats, all done in canvas or cotton sheets or something.
Yeah.
The whole thing's all stitched up, and then the whole lot's all decorated and braided and all sorts. You can't see any rushes left at all. So in Whitworth, it took it to its next logical step. And,
So, I mean, tradition is partly innovation too, isn't it?
yeah, I think tradition is organic. It
Yeah.
evolves, it changes. As long as you don't come along and sort of make something up just for the hell of it and start, just sort of because you want to be like somebody else, you want
Yes.
to be like something else.
Yeah.
But things change, and things will change with time. I mean, like, we changed to a smaller tower and a smaller cart because for getting the stuff and making it manageable. And it's obviously not traditional to use an angle iron frame and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So yeah, things change. Things have to be allowed to change. Even for example, the street dance
Yes.
has changed because some years you can't be sure of having 16 plus a few spares dancers because the street dance should be done with 16 dancers.
Uh-huh.
So to cover that, or in case you have late injuries or something like that, or somebody goes out, we've actually ended up having a version of the street dance where the big figure, which needs the 16 normally, can be done with 12, and the street dance can now be done with 12 in case you haven't got enough out. I don't know whether there was a contingency like that in the past, but it was something that's been found necessary, like when numbers have been tight, or when there has been just 16, and it means if somebody cruckles or something on the way down, then the whole thing falls apart. So you've got to be able to reform it and redo it, do it in a slightly different way. So, yeah, well, I mean that's not setting out to change it. That's just force of circumstance and the sort of organic change that came about over the time, you know, the dozen or more years that it's been going, you get changes like that. In fact, the first time the rushcart went down the road, it wasn't even the Whitworth street dance, because we hadn't got it properly at that point. The old guy that we got the dance from,
Right.
and the two old ladies and things, all the bits hadn't really come together, we hadn't got it really sorted. So we revived the rushcart before we'd actually got the rushcart dance properly sorted. So originally it was danced with, which dance did you use? One at Garland dances, one at Dances from Ramsbottom I think was used the very first year of the rushcart. It's a shame, but second year it was a street dance. Not quite right. Third year it was not quite right.
You're told what third year was that? Was that early 70s?
Yeah, when we, well, no, third year would be like 10 years ago now,
Right.
so that'd be late 70s.
Yeah.
77, something like that. It was still not quite right, because the old guy that we got most of the dance off,
What was his name?
oh bloody hell, I'll show you his front door, I don't know
Yeah.
if his daughter still lives.
Don't worry.
Yeah, I can picture him now, stood at the end of the street. He came down every year. He danced with the old Whitworth Nutters, and had watched the dance and things, and seen it going on and stuff like that. And we had other people who had danced it in a version of the dance in a boys' team after the war and things like that. We had some stuff from some old ladies who'd remembered watching the dance from above, from upstairs, and watching it happen below. And the great thing was that for 2-3 years, the old guy came down to the end of Tong Lane and watched us do the big figure, which is the complicated figure. And he said, sort of, nearly, but not quite. You know. I remember people going over there and people coming over here and stuff. Because we had two guys that had danced it in this boys' team after the war, but they only remembered what they did. So we had to fit what they did with what another dozen people, 14 people were doing, plus the recollection of somebody who was standing behind watching it, and the recollections of people standing on top in the upstairs windows watching it. Put this together and make it work and make people end up in the right place at the right time. And the third time we came down, we danced it in front of him. He says, that's it, that's just what happened, I remember, that's exactly how I remember it, that's great. And he died a few months later. So it only just made it, did the Whitworth Street dance. It only just sort of got back into tradition.
Worth hanging on to.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if places like Whitworth don't sort of keep things like that, it means that they more easily stop being communities and things. I mean, that's why I've put so much time into this and want people to... I want people in Whitworth to sort of appreciate what's going on and stuff. Well, what bugs me more than anything else is that there's hardly anybody from Whitworth dancing. I really would like to see everybody down that road being from the valley. And there's only 2 or 3, in fact. But because the rest of the guys dance other dances during the rest of the year. They dances from Ramsbottom and Rochdale and things, and they go around sort of dancing on tours and doing displays and things. But like me and 1 or 2 other people, we only dance once a year. My gear, all my gear, my dancing gear, sort of goes into mothballs on Friday night, gets hung up, well Saturday morning it'll be by the time I get finished. Hang it up in a wardrobe, that's it then.
That's it.
It's finished, yeah.
So for you, the rushcart and the rushcart dance, it's part of what helps Whitworth stay a community.
That's what I'd like. I'd like to feel that it was contributing to that. I mean, I'm an incomer. I only came to it a dozen years ago. But you know, with every intention of staying and stuff, so I rebuilt a house there and then tend to stop. And to have something special, to have something different, to have something that's just your own and belongs to a community, that's quite a small community. I think that's really great. I think that's really important. And something that comes from inside, you know, that's not implanted. Somebody doesn't say we will have a festival of or something, and it's something special, just for that community, just for those people. I think that's great, and that's why I tend to like the idea of keeping it low key. We talked about making it a big Saturday, like some of the other big rushcart things become, and you know, get loads of people coming in. I'd rather keep it just Friday night and 1 or 2 teams round about that can make it, that's local and have their own dances. And, like we don't invite any sort of dancing clubs or out like that with dancers from all over the country and things. It's just local Lancashire sides that are traditional sides that have their own tradition and have their own dancers and will come and can do the processional dances, their processional dance if they want to, behind the cart.
Like the coconutters.
Well, the nutters dance, and the most, apart from the nutters, all or less all the teams are revival teams, some going back quite a long while. But they do have their own dances, their own genuine sort of dances of their place where they work from and stuff. And it's kept like that, and that sort of size keeps it right. It means that it stays as just something that basically only local people will get to see and will come to see. And of course the dance is kept special as well. The Whitworth street dance is only done with the Rushcart. You only see it once a year. It's not done for shows or folk festivals or, I mean, even when they went across to Hungary last year, they were dancing in Hungary and things, sort of in these national folk fest, didn't do the Whitworth dance, you know.